Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. We're going to talk about how do we convert between degree and radian in this video. Before I proceed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you've not clicked the notification bell, don't forget to do so. So when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. All right, so we'll go straight into this. So we'll talk about how do we convert between degree and radians. Now, in trigonometry, to measure an angle, there are two different measuring systems we have. We have degrees and radians. So we're going to be solving so many questions in this series. Some will be in degrees, some will be in radians. So it's very important that we know how to convert between a particular measuring system to another, because some questions will ask you to solve in radians, some might ask you to solve in degrees, some might give you the questions in degrees and want the answer in radians. So there's gonna be an interplay of these two systems here. So it's important that we try as much as possible to know how to solve it or change between these two systems. All right. So because I'm aware some people do take note, I'm going to write this. So I'm going to measure an angle. So to measure an angle, all right, there are two different measuring systems. All right. So there are two different measuring systems. Okay. So we have the first one is what we call the degrees. Okay. So the first one is the degrees and the second one is the radians. All right. So we're going to be looking at how do we convert between degrees and radian. All right. So quickly, before I start that, I'm going to just give some highlight of each of these units of this measuring system. So I'm going to start with radian. I'll talk about two or three things about it. What does when you talk about radian, what does that imply, and how do we go about it? And also that after that, I'm going to talk about degrees. So let's get started. So the first thing is radian, all right? So I want to talk about radian now, which is one of the degrees, all right, measuring systems. So the first thing I'm going to say here is that usually is the angle subtended at the center of the cycle. So when you have a complete rotation around the circle, it is 2 pi radian. The measurement is 2 pi radian. Now, but when the length of an arc is equal to the length of the radius, then that is equal to 1 radian. All right. So just to be sure, so if you have a circle here, okay, now the angle subtended at the center here, all right, at this center, so that means you've gone all the way round and you're back here, all right? The angle there is 2 pi radian, okay? So 2 pi radian. So that's what we get at the center here. So when you go all the way, all right, and you're back here to the center, it's 2 pi radian. So better put, you can have it like the angle subtended at the center of a circle. Okay, the angle subtended at the center of a circle by the radius after one complete revolution, or let's say rotation. One complete rotation, okay, is 2 pi radian. Okay, so after you have a complete rotation, so you move from the center all the way here. So if I'm to write this again to make it look clearer, okay? So if you move, let's assume this is the starting point, you move all the way and you come back to this point here. Okay, this is 2 pi what? 2 pi radian. All right. Now, and this is very important because we usually say in some cases, we try as much as possible to get the value of 1 radian. So, but basically, we do that. The value of 1 radian is when the length of the arc becomes equal to the length of the radius. Okay. So what I'm saying is that for radians, when you draw a circle, okay, let's draw a particular circle here. And let's assume we are already aware that the radius is from the center here. So the point here is the radius from the center all the way here. And we know that to any point of that is a radius. Now, what we are saying is that if this length of the arc here, okay, if the length here is equal to the radius, then the angle here at this point is going to be what? Radian, equal to 1 radian. So when the length of an arc, all right, is equal to the radius, is equal to 1 radian. So I'm going to write this down as well. So when the length of an arc when the length of the arc becomes equal to the length of the radius, the angle subtended at the center becomes 1 radian. Okay, so this is very important. So when the radius is equal to the length of the arc, it becomes 1 radian. And usually, how do we denote radians? So radians, we denote it as either rad. So some people write it as rad. So that is usually how some people write that. Some people also write it as C. So radians, okay, is denoted as you will see things like either rad. In some cases, you could see it as a small c on the top. All right. So you can see it in this case. And usually radian is the SI unit for measuring angles. Okay. So this is the SI unit of measuring angles. SI units for measuring angles. All right. So it is the SI unit for measuring angles. We measure it in radians. And this is a quick overview of it. So the first thing is that at the center, okay, after a complete rotation, okay, you don't need to forget that. After a complete rotation, the value of the angle at the center is 2 pi radian. And also, when the length of the arc is equal to the radius, the angle subtended is also 1 radian. And radian is usually denoted as rad, and it's also the SI unit for measuring angles. All right. So let's go to the next one, which is the degrees. So let's talk about degrees now. So let's talk about degrees. How do you what is degrees? What is it about? Now, unlike radians, where at the center of the circle, it was 2 pi radian. In this case, at the center of the circle is going to be 360 degrees. Okay. So in this case here, the center of the circle here is going to be 360. So if this is the starting point, and you measure all the way all around back to the starting point, the angle subtended here is what? The angle here is 360 what? Degrees, all right? In radians, it was 2 pi radians, but in this case, it's 360 degrees. And also, another thing we need to keep in mind is that the degrees is not the SI unit for measuring angles, but it's one of the measuring system for measuring angles, okay? So before I go further, let me just write down what I just said so that I know students do take notes for what I write. So now it's going to be the angle subtended so the angle subtended at the center of the circle after one complete rotation okay, of the radius is 360 degrees. So 360 degrees. So in the case of radians, it was 2 pi radians, but in this case, it's 360 degrees. All right, so the next one, another thing we need to know as well is that in this case, one revolution is basically divided into 360 equal parts. So basically, and each part is called a degree. So since we know a complete revolution was 360 degree, so one revolution now is going to be 1 degree. So basically, we're dividing it into 36 equal parts, all right? So one revolution is divided into 360 equal parts. Okay? And each part is called a degree. Or let me write it here. It's called a degree. So that means 1 degree. All right. So what we do is that for 1 degree, what you just basically do the 360 degree, divide it in 360 degree equal parts, and each of the angles subtended there is called 1 degree or a degree. And finally, degree is also denoted as deg, so DEG, or with a circular symbol. So sometimes, so usually the most common one is just the circular symbol. Is denoted as so you see something like this. So it's the same symbol I gave at this point here. So you see this is the circular symbol I gave there. So the 360 degrees, okay? So that is it. So you can have the circular symbol, but it is not an SI unit, okay? It's very, very important that we stress it. So degree, all right, is not an SI unit, or it's not the SI unit for angles. So it's not the SI unit to measure angles, but it's accepted unit of measurement. But it is an acceptable unit of measurement. Yep. So that is that. So first thing first, you need to keep in mind that degree is not the SI unit to measure angles. but it's an acceptable what? Unit of measurement. So that is quickly that for degree and radians. So radians is also the acceptable unit, and at the center is 2 pi radians, while at the center for degree is 360 what? Degrees. So keeping that in mind, then we can now quickly see if we can give a quick summary of what we've said. So we can now easily say, since the center, all right, so therefore we can now agree. Let me change the pen color. It's purple. So therefore we can now say, all right, based on what we've talked about now, all right, we can now say, since we know at the center was 360 degrees, it's equivalent to the same thing, but in radian is going to be 2 pi what? Radians. Okay, so 360 degree will be equal to 2 pi radian. So based on this, if we divide both sides by 2, so 180 degrees is going to be equal to what? Pi radians. All right, so this is the most important thing for you to take away with here. So that means 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi radian, and 180 degrees is equal to pi radian. Also, you can also try to maybe do this in terms like a chart if you want to. So you can also have it in a chart form. So if we have degree, all right, and you have radians. So basically what I'm saying is that I can move from degrees all the way to radians, and I can also move from radians all the way back to degrees. Now, so basically, how do you do this? From degrees to radian, you multiply by what? Pi over 180 degrees. So if you're moving from degrees all the way to radians, you multiply by pi over 180. And if you're moving from radians back to degrees, you have to multiply by 180 degrees divided by what? Pi. Okay, so from degrees to radian, you multiply by pi over 180. And from radians back to degrees, you multiply by 180 divided by pi. Now, this is the highlights of what I'm saying today. So make sure you understand this. So when you're moving from degrees to radian, you multiply by pi over 180. When you're moving from radians back to degrees, you multiply by 180 divided by pi. All right. Let me write down the rules on how to solve this. So here, basically, there are 3 rules or 3 steps. So depending the way you want to write it. So there are 3 steps. So the first thing first, you need to write out the numerical value of the angle you want to convert. So the first thing you have to do is that you have to write down the numerical value okay, of the angle to be converted. Okay. Now, the second thing that you have to do then, after you've done that, is that you then multiply step 1, that is the numerical value, with the appropriate value from the formula. So if it's from degree to radian, you multiply that angle in degrees by pi over 180 degrees. If it's from radian to degrees, you multiply that angle in radian by 180 over pi. So now, in step 2, you multiply step 1. Okay, so you multiply step 1 with the appropriate value okay, from formula. So you multiply appropriate value from formula. So we have from degree to radian. If you're converting from degree to radian, what you do you multiply the angle in radian or the angle in degrees. So you multiply this by pi over 180 degrees. Okay, so if you're converting from degree to radian, the angle in degree, you multiply it by pi over 180. Now, but if you're converting from radian to degrees, now if you're converting from radian to degrees, what you do in this case will be equal to the angle in radians multiplied by 180 degrees over pi. Then when you're done with that, step 3, what you do then is you then simplify. Okay, so the 3 rules, as I said, you write down the numerical value of the angle, okay? After you written that down, the next thing you then multiply step 1 with the appropriate value from formula. Then degree, from degree to radian, you angle in degree multiply by pi over 180. From radian to degree, the angle in radian multiplied by 180 over pi. Then you simplify. All right, so I'm going to take some examples. Just to explain this, I'm going to take some examples. Then from there, we'll go to the next step. So let's pick this example I have here. So let's start with something. So let's say we're told, number 1, we're told to convert, let's say 210 degrees or maybe 220. So any amount, it does not really matter. It's still the same concept. So let's say we have, let's say convert, let's say 210, okay, 210 degrees to radian. Okay, 210 degrees to radian. So let's go. We follow the steps. The first step said that we have to write down the numerical value of the angle we want to convert. So step 1. So step 1, the angle we want to convert is 210 degrees that we want to convert to what? To radian, right? Now, next thing, step 2. So step 2, what do? They said now you multiply with the appropriate value from the formula. So we are moving from degree to radian. So it's going to be the angle in degrees multiplied by pi over 180. So the angle in degrees multiplied by pi over 180. So what is the angle in degrees? 210 multiplied by pi over what? 180 degrees. Then step 3, what are we meant to do? Step 3, we're meant to what? Simplify. So step 3, we're meant to simplify. So let's go. So step 3, we're meant to simplify. So this is going to become, bring this a bit down. So it's going to become 210 multiplied by pi divided by what? 180 degrees. So it's the same thing as saying when you press your calculator, it's going to give you 7/6 pi radian. Or if you want it in decimals, it's going to be 3.665. Going to give you 3.665. So these are the 2 ways to solve it. So you see that you have, you can leave your answer in pi radians, or you can leave your answer in decimal point for this. Let's pick another example, okay? Let's pick another example. So let's assume that we have, we're told, let's example 2, we're told now to convert, okay? Let's say this time 150 degrees to radian. So step 1, as usual, we need to write down what we want to convert. So we're converting 150 degrees. We want to convert it to what? Radians. Step 2, we now have to look at what do we need to convert from degrees to radian. So if you go back to the previous board, from degrees to radian, you expected, right? The angle in degrees multiplied by pi over what? 180. So the angle in degrees multiplied by pi over 180. So the angle in degrees we have here was 150 multiplied by the pi over 180. Okay. Then step 3, because we have it over pi over 180, we now simplify. So it's going to be 150 multiplied by pi divided by what? Divided by 180. And when you press your calculator for this, it's going to give us 5 over 6 pi radian. If you just want to have the pi still in the question, or if you want it in decimal point, it's going to be 2.618 radians. Okay, and that is that. Now let me pick a question on converting from radian to degrees. So let me just pick 2 on that. So let's assume we have this question 3, and you were told that you should convert. This time they want you to convert pi over 6 radians. They want you to convert this to degree. Okay, so step 1, we then have to now write down what we want to convert. So we're converting pi over 6 radian. We're converting this to degree. All right. So let's see. So step 2, we need to now go and check how do we convert this. Okay. So we're going to go back to the previous board and see from radian to degrees is going to be the angle in radian multiplied by 180 degrees divided by pi. So the angle in radian multiplied by 180 degrees divided by pi. So let's go back. So we have the angle in radians. So that's pi over 6 multiplied by 180 divided by pi. Okay. Now, step 3, after you are done with this, we need to then simplify. So step 3 can simplify, so you can press this straight in your calculator. So when you have pi over 6 multiplied by 180 divided by pi, okay? When you press this, the pi will cancel out. Okay, this pi will cancel out. So 180 divided by 6 is going to be 30 degrees. So the answer you're going to have here is 30 degrees. So when you convert pi over 6 radian to degrees, the answer you're going to get is 30 degrees. Okay? That's the answer you're going to get. Okay? So let's pick one, the last one. Let's say we're converting 2 over 3 pi radians to degrees. So let's just pick the last one. Number 4. Let's say convert. It's one of the popular ones as well. 2 over 3 pi radians. Okay, you're meant to convert this to degree. Okay, so you're meant to convert this to degrees. As usual, step 1. We're going to write down what we want to convert. So it's going to be 2 over 3 pi radian. We're converting this to what? Degrees. All right. Step 2. Now, if you're converting from pi radians to degrees, you have to multiply by 180 degrees divided by pi. So it's going to give us 2 pi over 3 multiplied by 180 divided by what? Pi. So as usual, then step 3, we now simplify. So step 3, we simplify. So it's going to be 2 pi divided by 3 multiplied by 180 over pi. Okay. The pi will cancel out. And if you press your calculator for this, it's going to give you 120 what? Degrees. So that means 2 over 3 pi is exactly the same thing as what? 120 degrees. So 2 over 3. So 2 over 3 pi radian is the same thing as 120 what? Degrees. So it's exactly the same thing. The same thing for each of them. In this case, we had pi over 6 radian is exactly the same thing as what? 30 degrees. So pi over 6 radian is exactly the same thing as what? 30 degrees. So depending the measuring system you're using will determine which one to use. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna pick some examples now for you to try. You can put your answers in the comment section. So I'm gonna write down the questions now for you to try. Okay. So I'm gonna give you some questions on converting from degrees to radian, and I'll give you some questions from radian to degrees. Okay. So that you can try. Then you can try. You can confirm with your friends, or you can put it in the comment section so other subscribers can also see or give a thumbs up or give a correction and have a discuss there. All right, so let's try this exercise then, okay? So we have some exercises, so let's try this exercise. Number 1, I want you to convert the following to radian. So that means I'm going to give you in degrees and I want to convert it to radian. So number 1, we have 180 degrees. Number 2, we have 270 degrees. Number 3, we have 360 degrees. Number 4, we have 45 degrees. Number 5, we have 0 degrees. Number 6, we have 90 degrees. Number 7, we have 720 degrees. Number 8, we have 850 degrees. Okay, I want you to try this and see what you get. Now, in terms of the other one, I want you to then convert this as well. So we have, I want you to now convert the following. So number 2, I want to convert the following. So I want to convert the following to degrees. Okay, so I want to convert them to degrees. So we have number 1, 2 over 5 pi, 2 over 5 pi radian. Okay, convert this. Number 2, I want you to convert 2 over 6 pi radian. Number 3, I want you to convert 3 over 7 pi radian. Number 4, I want you to convert 5 over 8 pi radian. Number 5, I want you to convert 6 pi radian. Number 6, I want you to convert 5 over 12 pi radian. And number 7, I want you to convert 3 over 12. No, sorry, not 3 over 12. 3 over 17 pi radian. Number 8, I want you to convert 22 over 7 pi radian. And the last one, number 9, I want you to convert 352 pi radian. All right. And that will be that for that. Okay, so I want you to try these questions. Try it, see if you can solve them, and put the answer in the comment section. All right, so that'll be that for that. So I'll go into the next video, which will be how do we find the circumference of a circle? All right. So key thing is that when you're converting, you need to know if you're converting from degrees to radian and radian to degrees. How do you go about it? From radians to degrees, you multiply by 180 over pi. From degrees to radian, you multiply by pi over 180. And also what you need to know as well is that it's very easy, but the thing you need to keep in mind is that radians is the SI unit for measuring what? Angles. And yes, and that will bring me to the end. And the next video will be how do we find the circumference of a circle? So it's very important that you subscribe and click the notification bell so that when I post the next video, you'll be the first person to know. So I'll see you soon in the next video and have a nice day. See you.